Virginia 5 is probably one of the most unique vessels on the west coast of the United States. It is one of only two vessels of its type still in operation in the continental United States that is a wooden hull, propeller-driven steamship.
Probably the most interesting feature of the Virginia 5 is the reciprocating steam engine, which is in back of me. And there are very few steam-powered vessels, period, in the United States, and even fewer with reciprocating engines.
So this is a reciprocating engine, and this thing is just, this is the pinnacle of technology for reciprocating engines. Beautiful piece of technology. It's magical to a lot of people, including us.
The engine itself dates back to about 1902, although the function of it and some of the parts are very similar to boats that were used during the Civil War.
The engine was built at a small machine shop down here on the Seattle waterfront. Heffernan Engine Works was installed in the steamer Tyrus in 1906.
And it was taken out of the 4 and reinstalled in the Virginia 5 in 1921, and the ship was launched in 1922. So the engine is quite a bit older than the ship is.
And it was a handmade engine when it was built, and it's still like that.
This engine is what's called a triple expansion engine.
So what happens is we have steam that enters the engine at the forward end with a high pressure cylinder, and right before it enters the cylinder, there's a steam valve, which is the only way we control the throttle on the boat.
And steam would go into the high temperature, high pressure valve and be drawn into the high temperature, high pressure cylinder and force the piston down. And another puff of steam would force the piston up. And as that steam travels throughout the engine, it continues to expand and cool and force the medium temperature, medium pressure cylinder down, and then force that up again, and then travel again one more time into the low temperature, low pressure cylinder and force that piston down and force that piston up. So it's a triple expansion, double action, reciprocating steam engine.
As far as maintenance goes, it doesn't need a whole lot, as long as the engineers remember to oil it.
I think there are about 69 to 72 different individual oiling points on the engine that they oil by hand.
You have to oil here, 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 up and there. These areas, there's got here, here, here. You're very cautious about your body parts when you have an engine spinning around next to you.
The one thing about the Virginia 5, which is completely different than any other boat you will be on, is that we have absolutely no control over the engine from the wheelhouse.
This is the engine order telegraph. The captain has one of these up on the bridge, and when he moves his handle to tell us which direction and how fast he wants to go, it moves our pointer, and we acknowledge it. We match it up with our handle down here, and that moves his pointer up in the bridge to acknowledge the fact that we know what the signal is. There's no gears, there's no clutch. So to go astern, you need to reverse the direction of the engine. And you do that with this big red lever. So at the moment it's in the ahead position. So if the captain rang down and he wanted to go astern, you pull this lever back and it changes the timing of the valves, and the engine will go in the opposite direction.
This vessel and this engine seems more of like a living being, just in terms of how many pieces are moving on it and how exposed all the inner workings are. It's one of those things where there's a little bit of magic behind it.
It's all the pumps and all the configurations of all the machinery and equipment that's down below. To see that come alive and to see the ship waking up every time I participate in that, it's just a thrill.
If anyone ever builds this again, it's going to look exactly like this engine, just with a different coat of paint and different size.